Today's conversation is on not doing the unnecessary to be magnetic so that everything that you desire in relationships can be naturally added onto you. Or we could say the relationships that represent love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment appear naturally, more so each moment with increasing frequency on a continuous basis as far as the senses perceive. This has been my experience from applying what we're discussing here, which is essentially not doing the unnecessary, which by that I mean very specifically not saying the unnecessary, which can result in unnecessary conflict, not doing the unnecessary, which can result in unnecessary conflict, rather allowing clarity to emerge in the relationship by valuing something that was discussed in the Kabbalion called neutralization. Neutralization. See, when the individual stops seeking for external love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, they abide in the silence from which clarity arises and plays out as harmonious conversation, harmonious relationships. We can call this being in the flow and experiencing flow-based relationships. I trust you've experienced this as well. Have you noticed that prior to going into a conversation, when you are being neutral to the other person, as in unconditional love, unconditional happiness, unconditional peace, unconditional bliss, unconditional fulfillment, by acknowledging that whatever you desire, you have, or as I say sometimes, desire means having, or we could even say, desire means I am. Desire means I am. And by that I mean specifically, anything that I desire, I am. If it is love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, I am. And from this stillness, neutral point, I could relate harmoniously and allow the symbols of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment to appear in conversation and as the relationship. And it could even be without conversation, simply being in the silence, enjoying a moment together, where in that moment I experience love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. This is a result of not doing the unnecessary. And the way that I found to facilitate not doing the unnecessary is to value detachment or letting go of the need to seek for external love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. There's nothing wrong with experiencing love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, your true nature in relationships. What is wonderful is to allow the symbols or the experiences, the conversations, the activities, the insights, the perspectives to emerge from this neutral point of being unconditional love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. As we remain as we are in conversation, what happens is, and I trust you've noticed this, the conversation flows. The relationship flows. So the way I've been applying this for years is if ever I was aware of what I think, behave, and emotionally relate to another person, that seems to suggest separation from being love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. In that moment, I don't identify with that particular thought anymore. And what I have seen universally is, we can say, not doing the unnecessary. For example, a person identified with illusions of separation, of being love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, may do all these different unnecessary things, say these unnecessary things, generating illusions of separation and conflict unnecessarily in the relationship. The only benefit to that I have found is that it brings awareness to the beliefs that when released, then I no longer need to do that unnecessary, which perhaps at one point I thought it was necessary, yet it was not necessary. Now, this applies for any kind of relationship: friendship, family relationship, business relationship, romantic relationship, you name it. By returning to the divine center, the neutral point, and observing the other person, the experience, the environment, etc., as unconditional, thus being as you are unconditionally, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, thus not needing those, we can say then the individual allows for whatever to arise, trusting that it is in harmony in a mutually beneficial way with the other person. So what does this actually look like, practically speaking? Well, what I noticed in relationships back in the days is I would seek externally for, we could say, signs of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment in the relationship with the other person before I said something, didn't say something, did something, did not do something. And what I was doing essentially as a result of that kind of identification, the need to see the signs in the relationship or the conversation, was I was cluttering the mind with mental chatter, which was, you could say, distorting listening to the inner voice that arose with clarity from the silence, or intuition, which reveal what to say, what not to say, what to do, what not to do, and not the unnecessary that was generated by the mental chatter. Now, as I took the opportunities, and the opportunities were presented in different kinds of relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, family, business relationships, as I took the opportunities that presented themselves while I was having a conversation with the person to let go or detach from the need to get, we could say, which is an illusion, external love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And by that I mean specifically, who determines if condition A is love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, and condition B is not love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment? The individual is determining that. Now, is it a true way? Is a great question. Is it an authentic way? That is a great question. Yet what I find is the way naturally arises by remaining as I am, neutrally and thus unconditionally observing myself and the other person from the perspective of true love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Again, anything I desire, I have. Anything that I desire, which is, let's say, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, that I am. As I took the opportunities, if I was about to react to what they said, what they didn't say, what they did not do, as I took the opportunity to accept myself the way I am, to accept them the way they are, unconditionally, as love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, what happened was that identification to that particular belief, whatever it may be. It could be a belief of lack of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, whatever it may be, was released. Even if I knew what the belief was, or even if I did not know what the belief was. This is the fascinating thing. By letting go of the need, by detaching from the need to seek external love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, which is a condition, by letting that go, by taking the opportunity in the moment to not identify with that belief, what happened was clarity started to arise in the relationship in a way that was mutually beneficial in various different ways. Not to throw my bias into it, but some of the ways that I have seen, and it may be similar for you, it may be different for you, whatever it shall be, it is authentic for you. What I have seen is prior to the interaction with the person, I'm thinking about a particular romantic relationship that I was in, and there was one area that we were conflicting on that we couldn't seem to reconcile on. By applying what we're talking about here, by assuming full responsibility to detach or let go of that illusory belief that was generating, doing the unnecessary, which was arguments, trying to convince the other person, etc. And it would appear both ways. We would appear to both play out that theater. I took the responsibility. And when I noticed that I was about to identify with that particular belief, as thoughts reveal what belief you're about to identify with, emotions reveal what belief you are identified with or about to identify with, or behaviors also can reveal through tension, reactivity in the body, etc., can reveal what you are about to be identified with or identified with. As I took that opportunity point to release that identification in the moment, what happened was the other person at times, this has happened actually, I'm looking at a number of relationships, so we'll explore different potential scenarios. Again, not to put a bias into it and say, this is how it will play out for you. Let's explore. The other person now has a solution. Very fascinating. What may also happen, and I've seen this, is a solution may arise in my mind. I present the solution, or they present the solution, and it ends up reconciling. A seeming challenge, a seeming conflict that may have been going on for months was reconciled by applying what we're talking about here, by not doing the unnecessary, by being magnetic to the solution. And also in that relationship, that played out in chemistry. The chemistry, the actual physical chemistry of the other person, which we can say was seeming to be restricted by that particular belief, was now flowing in that relationship. Isn't that wonderful? What I've also seen is there were moments of stillness. We wouldn't say anything, yet we would feel that something had reconciled at the same time. And then we start mirroring each other's thoughts, behaviors, and again, that chemistry is flowing, all by not doing the unnecessary. So what I say, what I don't say, what I do, what I don't do, flows naturally by being as I am. Not seeking for external love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment unnecessarily, but acknowledging that although I may desire love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment externally in this relationship, that's fine. I can acknowledge desire means having, or desire means I am. I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. You are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. They are in the relationship. Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment for no reason at all, and God takes care of the rest. What is said, what is not said, what is done, what is not done naturally flows, and we can call that authentic personal magnetism. It flows, and I trust you notice this. The unnecessary is not done. All by detaching, letting go of the need. Letting go of the need to control things, to force things, to try to convince the other person. Now, what's fascinating also is I experienced this in business relationships. We had a conversation yesterday in Flow-Based Prosperity, my group coaching and mastermind service. If you're interested in that, I'll link in the description, about sales. And back in the days, I thought sales was about trying to convince the other person, force the other person, strong arm the other person, closing the deal in a way that is not mutually harmonious to get money. That's what I thought. Yet I didn't identify with that. Something didn't feel right about that particular belief. If identified with that kind of belief, it can generate all this unnecessary doing, all this unnecessary trying to convince the other person. So I discovered consultative selling, which is a conversational kind of selling, which the premise of conversational selling or consultative selling, we could say, is allowing for clarity to emerge, allowing for the beneficial solution to emerge. And it is exactly what we're talking about here. How so? We engage in exploratory conversations with the prospect, with a genuine curiosity. As a sales professional, we genuinely desire to have the conversation with them. We are genuinely interested in providing them the solution to the seeming problem or the seeming challenge or whatever it is that they desire. We trust that some way, somehow, the solution will arise. And it might not be the product or service that I have. That's fine, because I can refer them to a partner. And at times, we have referral arrangements set up. So there's still a revenue stream there. So we go into the interaction completely neutral, being as I am, unconditional love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, not seeking it in the conversation, seeing them as love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And what happens is the conversation flows and clarity arises, and we come up with the solution and the custom solution at times, or we may find ways of, or the articulations flow of how the product or service that I have is actually a match for them, where they don't feel that they were pushed into the sale or forced into the sale. Now, one of the benefits of doing it this way, as I have taught many businesses, as I've been a consultant since 2013 after building my IT business to success from 2009 to 13, is I notice that the refunds went down as there was no buyer's remorse after the sale because there's no forcing or manipulating. And also the referrals went up because people were gladly referring their friends and family to them, to these sales reps, these organizations that were treating them respectfully in a mutually harmonious way. And also, we noticed that the conversions went up, as in they acquired more clients, and ongoing business from those clients increased as well. Because once you have a wonderful, harmonious relationship with a person, then we could say we feel more comfortable to explore what else that person is offering. And again, all by not doing the unnecessary. See, a person may think that they need to force, control, manipulate, seek for external love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment in the relationship unnecessarily, which then results in doing, thinking, and saying unnecessary things that doesn't do anything but just generate a bunch of convoluted behaviors, we could say. And no shame in condemnation. We can practice what we're discussing here, which is to not do the unnecessary, to be as you are, magnetic, and allow things to happen. Now, when I refer to being neutral, it doesn't mean that I don't experience emotions. Rather, emotions are not suppressed or repressed. The burning desire is still there. It's just transmuted towards creative expression. In romantic relationship, it is transmuted into the result of the chemistry that is there between the two individuals. In business relationships, the burning desire is transmuted into creative expression, products, services, what I say, what I don't say. It's flow-based. So emotions are experienced, the burning desire is transmuted, and the emotions are not, the burning desire is not suppressed, repressed, or denied. It is rather transmuted. Now, we find that it is considerably easier to do that by being as you are, as unconditional love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, letting go of the need, detaching from the need, if it's there, to seek external love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, because that's illusory. Anything that you desire, that you are. Desire means having. Desire means I am. Now we've explored burning desire and detachment from outcome, the reconciliation of the two, which is experienced while in flow, in a recent video while I was in Playa del Carmen that I recorded last week. I'll link in the description to it. I recommend watching it. So, in other words, you can be as you are, and you can let that energy in motion, emotions are energy in motion, propel you forward to creative expression while being detached from outcome, while practicing being detached from outcome. And by that I mean very specifically, detaching from the unnecessary in relation to the outcome. And then what flows is authenticity, your natural way, what you say, what you don't say, what the other person says, what the other person doesn't do, etc., all flows naturally and harmoniously. Being as you are, being in flow. We can also refer to this as Mihai Csikszentmihalyi referred to it in the book Flow as being autotelic. In other words, it's practically experienced as I do what I love to do for no reason at all. Not for this external reason or that external reason, simply for the fact that I am doing what I love to do, which we could say is a symbol or symbols of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And that is magnetic. And what plays out then is not doing the unnecessary. Body flows. The other person's body flows. What they say, what you say happens naturally. I trust you've noticed this. How do we encourage this as an occurrence of happening more so, we could say, if we desire this? Not doing the unnecessary, which I've been working with entrepreneurs and also those interested in relationships in any shape or form outside of entrepreneurship for many years. And what they have communicated to me is they genuinely desire, I would say universally, although they had said it in many different ways, that they desire to be as they are. They desire to not do the unnecessary because they acknowledge that doing the unnecessary resulted in so much suffering. And we could say, in no shame and condemnation, they were questioning why they were doing the unnecessary. And they said, well, you can actually stop doing the unnecessary by practicing the following. Anytime the opportunity presents itself, as in, I am aware of what I think, I am aware of how I emotionally relate, I am aware of my behaviors, and if there is, let's say, identification, which can present itself as hesitation, fear, doubt, uncertainty, anxiety, tension, overthinking, emotional turmoil, I can regulate the emotions. I can relax my body. I can think clearly, or I can stop thinking the illusory thoughts in the moment. And then mind is purified. And you feel as you are. Unconditional love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment in the moment. And what happens is, let's say you're about to interact with someone. I trust you've noticed this as well. See, all this stuff is not new to us. We've done this before. What I encourage is being more as you are more often, as I do with myself as well. What I notice, and I trust you've noticed as well, is the conversation naturally flows in an ideal way. Again, not to throw a bias into it, because if a person says it should be this way, in order to be love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, or that way to be love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And if it is not this, then suffering. And if it's not that, then suffering. Release that condition. Allow it to flow. And through the practice, you stop doing the unnecessary. You appear to be more magnetic. You notice that people, environments, circumstances, and information that is in harmony and in contribution with your vision, for example, flow naturally to you. You notice that spontaneously or intuitively, you may do something, and it might not make any logical sense, yet it works out. All of a sudden, let's say you start a conversation with someone, and you end up dating them. Or they turn into a business contact or a new friend. Let's say that's not something you normally do, yet it happens. Or you may notice a person now comes and talks to you. You feel instantly that connection that was, let's say, not experienced before because of identification to a particular belief that was generating the resistance for that experience to occur. Thus, we can say that not doing the unnecessary naturally results in doing what is in harmony with the vision. Not doing the unnecessary naturally results in appearing to do nothing, or so it seems, and a person then coming up to you and talking to you. One way is not better than the other. This is how I have seen relationships reconcile as well. A person may be confused. Should I call the person? Should I not call the person? Should I text them? Should I not text them? Should I do this? Should I do that? Release the bias of one way being better than another by accepting yourself now as unconditional love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Let it be. And the clarity arises. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. So let's conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You could say, by being as I am, as unconditional love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, I remain neutral to interactions prior, during, and after to allow clarity to arise, to allow emotions to flow, to allow behaviors to flow. And as I remain as I am, I notice that they too allow clarity to arise, allow emotions to flow, allow behaviors to flow that appears as mutual harmony, chemistry, and relatability that is true and authentic to being as I am.